Sarah Bonner is a teacher at Hayworth Junior High in Hayworth, Illinois, which is in McLean County, outside of Bloomington. One of the books that she recommended her middle schoolers read, I mean, she did more than recommend, she brought it to the classroom, is Juno Dawson's This Book is Gay. It's billed by its publisher as an entertaining and informative instruction manual for anyone coming out as lesbian, gay, bi, or trans. The book, among other things, includes graphic descriptions of sex, all the popular oral, anal, so forth.
Yuck.
Grade schoolers. Encourages children to explore their sexuality and join homosexual dating apps like Grindr.
Ew.
Sarah Bonner no longer feels safe in her school. Now she must know how parents feel about their children in her class because a couple of parents filed a police report against Sarah Bonner accusing of her child endangerment. Well, I mean, I guess if it's good enough to treat parents as domestic terrorists if they show up to school board meetings and question the curriculum choices of administrators and teachers, then I guess it's good enough for parents to enlist the police as well when their children are being sexualized against their wishes. I think that's good for the goose, good for the gander. She can't go back. She can't go back to school. She feels unsafe.
Oh, okay.
Sarah Bonner. Yeah.
Was she afraid the parents are going to come out and get her?
She just doesn't feel safe. She can't believe that anyone would file a police report against her, or not fully, and more importantly,
not embrace her ideology.
Exactly, not fully be excited about.
That's what this is about.
Yeah, bring Juno Dawson's book home. This book is gay, and pour over it with mom and dad. And by the way, this is not just happening in Central Illinois. Parents at the progressive, that means leftist, Waldorf School of Garden City in Long Island.
Yeah.
They're in revolt. These are leftists. These are rich leftists. Fifth grade tuition at Waldorf School, Garden City in Long Island is $30,000.
Oof.
This is a school operated, or at least originated, with the Unitarian Universalist Church. Yeah, the Unitarians. They have a sex ed curriculum called Our Whole Lives that was just rolled out in March by the school. It includes a controversial book called It's Perfectly Normal that's been around for a while, like most of these books. That includes cartoons of young kids masturbating.
Gross. I mean,
and talking about how kids can feel sexy and phrases like, or passages like this. When people masturbate, they usually rub their sex organs with their hands or with something soft like a pillow.
Ew.
Some religions call masturbation a sin, but masturbating cannot hurt you. There's also a section in the book on how children, both of the same gender or of different genders, may even look and even touch each other's bodies. This is normal kind of exploring, does not necessarily have anything to do with whether someone is or will be straight, gay, lesbian, or bisexual, because it's all perfectly normal. Changing bodies, growing up, sex, and sexual health. $30,000 a year for your fifth grader to be instructed on this by some creepy adult. Parents, though, not happy. This is how it made it to the New York Post. One parent saying, one mom, it made me physically nauseous. There's a whole page on contraception and vaginal and anal sex and more about how it's perfectly normal. This is clearly agenda pushing, and it's so outrageous. Well, maybe time to school shop. For more on all of this and other matters related to K through 12, pleased to be joined by Daniel Buck. He's a middle school English teacher, also a fellow at the Fordham Institute, and author of What is Wrong with Our Schools? Where to begin? The Ideology Impoverishing Education in America and How We Can Do Better for Our Students. What is Wrong with Our Schools is the book. Daniel Buck, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on. Glad to be here.
How about that? Is that parents taking it too far to file a police report against that middle school teacher in Central Illinois?
I keep coming back to the fact some of these books, if I were to go to the playground by my house and read from Perfectly Normal or Genderqueer or This Book is Gay, if I were to take it out and show it to the kids, the 4-year-olds, the 5-year-olds, the 10-year-olds, playing on that playground in their little childhood innocence, I mean, the police would be called on me for that.
Yep.
If
Well,
I were showing
no,
children pictures.
no. Not if you were in drag, they wouldn't.
Oh,
Oh, yes, then I'd be applauded as stunning and brave, a hero, truly. I just find it ludicrous, this idea that it's wrong. It's now considered controversial to say that it is wrong to show these books to kids. It is wrong to keep these books off of curriculum or out of school libraries. Just the idea that keeping that out of kids' hands is the controversial position is just so reflective of where our society and where our education system is at right now.
well, when did like Genderqueer and This Is Gay? When were they admitted or accepted into the library? Because I don't remember any controversy when they were put on the shelves. But now it's after COVID, people are starting to wake up finally.
I can't give you a date when it showed up on shelves. I'm not a librarian myself, but I know back when I was in grad school for education, I mean, I've written about this for the Wall Street Journal, a few other places. I didn't really learn how to run a classroom, how to ask questions, how to sequence curriculum. I remember distinctly a lecture on transgender literacy, and this was back in 2016. So this is 7 or 8 years ago. People were already talking about it. I think it kind of stems back to we've been having this debate since the sexual revolution, really, since Freud. Are children sexual? Are these old stuffy religious standards oppressive? This debate goes back a long time.
So let me ask you this, with this debate about grooming in the classroom, do you think that most of these teachers and administrators are well-intentioned and they think this is right and proper, or is there something else afoot here?
I think, I keep saying this, most teachers, perhaps not at these elite private schools or in super blue urban districts, most teachers that I've met are not on board with this kind of thing. They want to read Romeo and Juliet. They want to teach math. They want to teach, the history that they're obsessed with. It's a lot of these DEI consultants. It's a lot of the woke administrators or textbook companies that are pushing this into the classroom. And I think they're well-intentioned within their own worldview, within their own hyper-progressive ideology. They're going to usher in, this Marxist revolution. So they're well-intentioned in that way. But, I mean, you and I, and obviously these parents that are stepping up and speaking out, see that it's nefarious and noxious and poisonous to our education system and children.
You wrote a piece recently on social-emotional learning. This is something we've talked about as well. And here's something, again, that sounds perfectly positive and well-intentioned. You're looking at the entire child, the intellectual development, but also the child's social and emotional development. That's all it is. But that's not all it is.
No, like I say in the piece, in its benign form, in its just the way it's presented in the media, it's just kind of mediocre. We're going to make kindness is cool posters, and good luck trying to influence a high schooler who's in a gang and doing drugs with like a few mini lessons on how kindness is cool. Yeah, like you said, in its more nefarious form, what it usually amounts to is it's just this rubber stamp for a whole list of progressive ideas. Because who could be against teaching kids about emotions or developing their academic and emotional growth? What monster would be against that, right? And no one wants to stand up and say that's a bad idea. And so, gender ideology gets in there, radical ideas about race in America, even things like getting rid of traditional grading. No one should get a 0. Everyone gets passed along, and everyone gets a participation trophy. All of these things kind of get smuggled in through the Trojan horse of SEL.
Yeah, Rick Hess over at the American Enterprise Institute has written on this as well, and he among other criticisms, the point that he makes is it may seem like social emotional learning is somehow divorced from academic learning. Um, and as implemented in many schools, it means there's a small block devoted to social emotional learning amid a school day where the rest of the time is for academic learning. As should be obvious, that's not the best way to go. Better path is integration. The best classes reveal their values through the type of classroom community they create, through the kinds of tasks they ask students to do. Thus, they help students build skills all the time, not just during the quote unquote social emotional learning block. And so it's he makes the point that it should be integrated, obviously, but also there's a reason that it's segregated, because to me, and this is what other scholars like Rick Hess have said too, as you were sort of intimating, it's a back door to get the politics in.
Yeah, and I think like Rick Hess is alluding to, sometimes it's set across as its own little block, and sometimes it's worked into the very curriculum itself. So you see SEL in physics classes and math classes and science classes where it doesn't belong. If you only have a 15-minute class and you are spending the first 15 minutes on SEL and physics, what else could you be doing with that time? Taking a quiz to review old material and hold kids accountable, reading another 15 pages, getting another example on the board, trying to get more kids to understand the concept for the day, even in its benign form, where it really is just trying to teach kids emotional regulation, it still has a trade-off. It's still taking away from the academic learning and the purpose of school, where kids should be getting their emotional development in families, in churches, in organizations, and institutions. The school's job is there to teach them the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic. And SEL just takes away from that.
Why don't teachers join with parents in revolting if, as you say, most of them want to read Romeo and Juliet, teach math, go through world history and so forth, all the things that they should be doing? Why won't they join? Why don't we see them joining with parents? Why does it take parents at a middle school in Central Illinois to file a police report?
I think there are two answers to that one, comfort and ideology. First, comfort. I initially didn't speak out because I need a job. I need to put food on the table for my family. I'm at a point where even if I got fired for speaking out, I write all over the place. I could probably get a job in advocacy if I wanted to. So I have kind of a safety net there that gives me the freedom to say whatever I want without fear. But most teachers aren't writers on the side. They're not advocates on the side. They need that job. They don't want to lose their job. They do enjoy going into the classroom and teaching kids. They want to keep cordial relationships with their more progressive peers. And I'm not going to blame a person necessarily for holding their tongue so they can keep pulling in a paycheck to pay for their house and the food on their table and stuff like that. So part of it's comfort. The other one is ideology. I think it's as much as only a third of teachers identify as liberal or very liberal. The majority call themselves moderate. And that's where I say most teachers aren't bought into this crazy ideology. But at the same time, moderate is such a squishy word. What does moderate mean? Some people who vote for Bernie Sanders will call themselves a moderate.
Right.
Because what are they comparing themselves to? And the dominant ideology in schools, in the university education programs, it is this radical leftism. And so moderate to them is they're not bought into all of it, but some of it they're okay with. They like the benign form of SEL, but not the kind of politicized version of it. So they allow it in. That moderate is such a squishy term, and they're a little bit bought in because that is what they've been told in teacher prep. That's what their professional development sessions are telling them. So they trust it. And they go so far, they let it in a little bit, and then the radical politics kind of flow in once there's that crack in the dam.
Yeah, right. Nothing facilitates the Jacobins like sentimental barbarians. Daniel Buck, my comment. Daniel Buck is an English teacher, as he mentioned, fellow at the Fordham Institute, author of What is Wrong with Our Schools, The Ideology Impoverishing Education in America, and How We Can Do Better for All Students. Daniel Buck, thanks for joining us again. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me up.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's like a hot, steaming cup of information to start your day. It's Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.